Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 22 of the anime series ClassicaLoid. This one was all kinds of madcap. It was just great seeing Beethoven in his element, in his love of coffee, and counting out those 60 beans, something one of you told me in the comments, was actually something, you know, the real world Beethoven was a very sort of a stickler for, I guess you could say. He had such a passion for coffee that he wanted 60 beans. You know, of course we're seeing Beats basically doing the same thing in this episode, and it was just a riot. His whole sort of opening lesson that... You know, he tries to trick you between, you know, the end of the lesson and the opening of the actual episode, where he's like, I'm going to count out 40 beans. Oh, shouldn't it be 60, you're asking? Well, yes, it was a test, you know. Just see if you're paying attention. I was just dying. The guy who is voicing Beethoven had to have been having a blast in this episode. All the laughing, all the craziness, all the madcap nature of Beats, you know. It was a whirlwind of hilarity, and like his almost going solid snake at one point. He's like snake sliding down the stairs because he's trying to avoid everyone. He knows he's going to run into people after he's finally managed to count those 60 beans, and it's been like just the utmost of hardship for him to be able to even do that much. He's counting and counting and counting. Liz comes home drunk, and he's got to help her to the toilet to vomit and everything like that. She's still very tipsy, and she's trying to get all up in his face and mess him up and everything like that. As soon as he finally gets rid of her for a little while, she passes out on the couch. We have Motes coming in and messing with him and wanting to make the coffee for him. And then, of course, Schubert. I love the fact that Schubert is still very much Mr. Hip-Hop. We didn't see a regression on the part of his character at all. And even like Motes calls him Parappa. That was something I said I was reminded of in the last episode discussion video, because certain elements of that episode were very Parappa the Rappa-esque, you know. So to see that they were consciously aware of that, it was all kinds of hilarious. And, you know, both Motes and Schubert, they're fighting over the right to make Beethoven his coffee, and they're wondering how many beans it's supposed to be. And so Beethoven, it's just breaking his every last nerve. At one point, he holds himself up into, like, the closet near the living room, offshoot to the living room. And he's got all these things blockading the door, and you have Kanai and Schubert and Motes and Liz. They're, like, Liz comes in, you know, all tipsy and topsy-turvy, wondering what time it is. Like, this is coinciding with their debate about, is it 100 beans, is it 50 beans, is it 30 beans, is it 60 beans? So she's like, is it 6 o'clock, is it 8 o'clock, is it 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock? It's just absolutely madcap. And then all of a sudden, the wall explodes, and Beethoven is like, stop saying numbers! You know, and then he's upstairs and he's counting. He's finally like back in his room or something like that, and he's making the count. And every single noise he hears, he pounces on top of his beans protectively. So, and he's like very furtively looking around, trying to figure out if somebody's moving in on his beans. So finally, when he gets the 60 beans counted, he pulls that solid snake stunt where he's like trying to avoid everyone who's wreaking havoc all across the manor house. And he just manages to barely do it before Chopin comes out of nowhere looking for something. He found it, and, you know, Beethoven has to do like a double somersault in the air over him through the door into the dining room. And he manages to do all of this while containing those beans to his hands, protecting them, not missing even one. He makes his coffee. He is finally ready to sip at this mug, this piping hot mug. And just as he takes his sip, and his world of ecstasy is opened before him, and he's imagining himself amongst a field of flowers on a sunny, beautiful, rapturous day, Motes is there, and he's like, oh, you know, I just happened to find a bean on the floor. Dead silence. And then the screaming fit, back and forth. They're screaming in each other's face. I was dying. There's some movie that is like a reference to or paying homage to, where two people are like, one is screaming, the other one starts screaming, and then they start screaming back and forth, like trying to out-scream each other in the heat of the moment. They're terrified or something like that. I mean, you've seen it before probably, if you've ever watched comedy movies and things, especially from the 70s and 80s. And that's what it really reminded me of. They're both screaming in each other's faces. And Mozart has no idea why he's even screaming. He's just reacting to Beethoven. And so Beethoven, he's like, okay, that's it. It's not just a matter of finding the perfect godly, divine ratio of beans. I've also got to find the right surroundings. I've got to find the right place to be sitting and calm to very much take in all 60 beans of this coffee, which apparently he manages to make, and he's carrying around in a thermos. And he tries everywhere. He tries everywhere he can think of on the top of industrial machinery and over here and over there, just all kinds of places. And finally, he settles on this little kiddie park, this rusted up panda on a spring, little like rocker ride and everything. And this completely gets the ire up of the local children. Not before, I might add, as he goes to take his sip, he gets smashed in the face by, I don't know what the hell it was, a football, a frisbee. I didn't really see. It looked like it might have been a banana peel. Who knows? And two kids come running up, and they're like, oh, we're sorry. Can you hand us our ball back or whatever it is? And they're, one of the kids is like, ooh, this is cool. It's a panda. I want to ride that. And so the grand debate ensues. Beethoven will not take his parked butt off of this thing. This is his seat now. Nobody has any claim to it at all. And of course, a riot ensues with all the local children, everyone from the manor house, all the ClassicaLoid, Sosuke and Kanai. They're all coming, wondering what the hell all the ruckus is. And Kanai, with her hanger, just starts beating him over the head. You're going to get off it. You're going to get off it. You're going to get off it. Get off it now. Get off it now. Get off. And I'm dying because he's just like cross-armed and like eyes closed. He's not even acknowledging the fact that he's getting beaten over the head. And so, of course, this kid decides that, like, sort of the main kid of the group who takes a step forward, he's like, well, all right, you don't want to lose this seat? Well, we'll challenge you for it. Let's play dodgeball. And if you lose even once, you don't ever get to sit on this panda again. Beethoven, very begrudgingly, he's like, all right, fine, I'll take that challenge. I'm untouchable. I'm perfect. Everything I do is entire going out for a walk and everything he does, where he's going, the directions he's taking, the way he bows 22 degrees or whatever it is toward an old lady who is like a flower shop owner and everything like that. Everything is uber perfection. It has to be absolute perfection. The best of the best of the best. And he's like, I am the best sportsman, my sports-like physique and everything like that. I'm untouchable. You kids think you're going to throw me out of town and you don't even know. You don't even have a prayer. All of the ClassicaLoids, Kanai and Sosuke, they all decide to team up with the kids. And, like, he has a whole, like, group, a whole slew of people who want to take him down a peg. And they don't even need more than the one kid who voiced up to begin with, who just immediately hits him with the ball and he's out. It's like the blink of an eye, and boom, he's gone. And then Beethoven's like, do it again. I wasn't ready. So then what ensues is like 100,000 immediate direct slams from the ball. Beethoven is outer than out. Finally, after the entire day of this madness, he is laid out on the ground. He can't even get up. His shoes are off. His jacket is off. His scarf is off. He is face planted on the ground. He cannot budge an inch. And finally, everyone's like, you know what? Forget this. Let's go home. If you really want to get on top of the panda that bad, if you love it that much, go ahead. So, despite all of his losses, Beethoven is like, I am the victor. It is my perfection, to have beaten these kids out of persistence and all this stuff. And so finally he gets his wish. He gets his wish to sit on the rockin' panda and drink his 60-bean coffee mixture and just delighting himself, And, oh man, I'm saying, like, the guy who voices Beethoven, he must have been having a ball, because you can hear it every time he's laughing, all of that bravado, everything that's going on. It was just a delight. It was absolutely insane and hilarious. And so, of course, they end the episode with Beethoven very much as he began, giving us the lesson about the coffee. What is the greatest beverage of them all? Is it milk? Is it juice? Is it this? Is it that? No, it's not. Did you think I was actually going to let you answer? It's coffee, So we go through this entire process again. What is the greatest sport in the world? Well, it's dodgeball. And then he challenges all the kids to dodgeball, and they run away screaming, scared out of their minds. And he's stripped down, got his jacket and scarf off again, got his shoes off again. He's running playfully after them, laughing maniacally. And it was just a hell of a fun time. This episode was absolutely fun. Beethoven is my favorite character in the show of the ClassicaLoids. I love them all for various reasons, but I've always had a soft spot, a warm spot in my heart and mind for Beethoven as the classical composer in the real world. His music I've loved the most out of all the classical music that I've sampled and become familiar with and everything like that. The Fur-Elise playing toward the I don't know if those lyrics are something that had been adapted to it in real world history or not, or if it was something specifically written. It's almost like a coffee song, if you will, because Fur-Elise was supposed to have been, as one of you guys were telling me in the comments, the conversation we were going back and forth, Fur-Elise was originally like a song of betrothal or something along those lines, and the idea of the romantic nature of that, and then having that coincide with his passion for coffee, his psychosis, arguably, for coffee. It was pitch perfect. I loved it. I loved the implications of that, and it's just all told. And I really am uber stoked for the next episode, part 1, of finally getting back to understanding what these 8 sounds are, and getting back to the culmination of this season-long enigma, this mystery of what the 8 sounds are, what Bach's purposes are for trying to align them and everything like that, and that it is a part 1 is interesting. They can't, fit it all into one episode, and I'm glad that they're not going to try to just jam-pack everything into one episode, So, I mean, just again, I love this series. I love that this episode was Beethoven-centric, and he was absolutely out of his gourd the entire time, and it was an absolute delight of hilarity to experience. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below if you've seen episode 22 of ClassicaLoid as well, if you loved it, if you laughed as much as I did, everything like that. Anything goes in the comments below. Just love having that conversation. Otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.